Hi, it's me. I'm Ethan. How are you? We are live on a 15-second delay, so like everything I say, you'll hear after I say it. Wait, that's always true. Check-in question. Just so you guys know, here's where I'm drawing the check-in questions from. 100 questions, 100 brave and interesting questions. This is where I'm drawing our check-in question from. The check-in question for today, for this session, is I love these questions. What is your actual superpower? This is clearly connected to your essays and what you might want schools to know about you. What is your actual superpower? Curiosity, says Angel. I'm going to exercise one of my superpowers right now by getting my needs met by turning the fan around. Excuse me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Laughter. I love it, Lauren. Superpower indeed. Listening, says Brendan. Smiling, says Leon. Cool. What else? What else you guys got? Curious. What are your superpowers? Reconciling friendships. Nice one. The ability to empathize always. Awesome. To create, says Elisha. Focusing, says Max. You guys are crushing it right now. Max, how have you found the Pomodoro technique? Just curious if you've used it or not. For someone who enjoys focusing, you may not need it, but I found that it kind of up-leveled my ability to focus. If you're just joining us, our check-in question is, what is your actual superpower? Giving advice, says Tyler. If you're just joining us as well and you're kind of bored by the chit chat and you want to get to work, fast forward 3 minutes because that's when we'll be starting in 3 minutes. Leon says, I wish I could find the secret to focusing. Leon, you have the secret to focusing. Google, Leon, here, Google Pomodoro technique and download the app or use the free online version and use this 25-minute timer. It's awesome. It makes doing things that I might not want to do a lot easier to do, right? That's a pretty good testimonial. Try it, Leon. Download an app. Download it if you have an iPhone. Download Tomato One or any of these. They're called Tomato apps. Oh, the Tomato timer's helping. Cool. We'll see when the school year starts. Use it. Use it but the reason I love it is because it's okay, I can spend 25 minutes doing, just about anything. So that's a weird thing to say. I can spend 25 minutes doing just about anything. What I mean by that is these kind of onerous tasks of writing a why us statement. You could spend 25 minutes doing that. There's my daughter in the background and our little bicycle. Okay, I'm just riffing. You want to ask me any question you want? Was that fun? Let's open it up. Ethan's in the hot seat. Ask me any question you want. If we were live, I would ask I would have put somebody else in the hot seat. Angel uses Self-Control, an app that blocks websites through a certain amount of time so I don't get diverted into YouTube. Cool. Check it out, Leon. All right. Any question you want for the next 1 minute? What do I think about Huckleberry Finn? I have no strong feelings about Huckleberry Finn. I'm glad you just finished it, though. Any other questions? Anything. The floor is open. My favorite book, Brothers Karamazov, probably changed my life the most. 9 Stories by J.D. Salinger. I find the one that I go back to a lot. Nonviolent Communication. That's the one I would recommend the most. What's the one movie everyone needs to see? The Sugar film. That Sugar film. Watch that movie. How much can you help us on our essays? I can get you from 0 to 7, Jenny. It's hard for me to get you on this course. I could get you maybe to 10. What am I terrible at but love to do anyway? I'm not a great singer, but I love to sing. What do I think about Lonzo Ball? I have no strong opinions. I don't know. I think he'll be good. I don't think he's going to be. I don't see him being the be all end all. Favorite superhero? I think I guess Batman as a kid. But I kind of like the stretchy mom in Incredibles, like the way she's able to like bend around stuff. How long is the extracurricular essay normally? Look it up. I mean, it depends on your school, Angel. So like sometimes it's 350, sometimes 150. Favorite song? Last question. You know what's coming into my head? The End of the Road by Boyz II Men. That was like the first song that like I just like loved. And I'm thinking about like songs that I love to sing but wasn't great at singing when I was an 8th grader. All right. That's it. That's the check-in. Thanks for playing. All right. Here we go. Switching over to the Prezi. Welcome to College Essay Guys, How to Write Amazing Supplemental Essays, Session 4. It's packed full today. I mean, it's packed full every day. But what do I want to say? At this point, I've given you tools and resources that you can write like 60 to 80% of your essays. I mentioned this already. Now we're going to start getting into specifics. But as we get into these specifics, what you should know is that the techniques that we're going to be working on are going to apply to schools other than the schools that I'm about to mention. Okay? So what are we doing today? The Stanford essays. Even if you're not applying to Stanford, pay attention. This could apply to another essay that you're working on. Create your own class essay. Anything that's asking you to respond to a quotation, or if you're applying to the University of Chicago. I chose these essays because they're the ones that students, I think, tend to get tripped up on the most, and I felt like had a potential to stretch and relate to other topics. Here's the process. You see how it kind of looks like a funnel, right? All of your beautiful awesomeness. We do a preliminary sort. We get into the how-to. On day 6, we'll get into the how you make sure your application is doing its job. And then we end up at this awesome final application. We're getting there. Right now it's day 4. We're getting into specific supplements. Next session is short answers. It's more, and I'll get into, that, like the video, which is optional. And then we'll do this, making sure your application is doing its job. All right, let's get in it. Today's session, I'm going to cover the Stanford intellectual idea essay, show you where you can find a bazillion intellectual ideas. That's the only time I've used the word bazillion. The one question that essay, I think, has to answer: how to write the Stanford roommate essay. Sometimes people are baffled by this. I will show you how to find the right balance between chaos and order. How to write the Stanford What Matters essay, 3 ways to increase the impact of that particular essay. The Create Your Own Class, the quotation, why it's really not about the quotation anyway. The U Chicago extended essay, how do you pick your topic? And then I'll tell you what I think the U Chicago is looking for. By the way, they kind of show you in their prompt, but I'll tell you what I think specifically they're looking for. And what's different about that essay than I think like a personal statement. And I'll be going over examples of each of these, but in the course guide, you'll find at least 2 examples of all of these. So that's cool. And you might also notice that I'm going to be reviewing about like 6 different essays in like 60 minutes. So I'm going to spend like 7 to 12 minutes on each one. All right, here we go. So the Stanford intellectual idea essay. Here's my favorite example of this essay. Check this out, y'all. Many weeks ago, I attended a lecture about bacterial evolution led by Dr. Stephen Finkel. At one point, he noted there are 70 trillion bacterial microbes and only 7 trillion human cells in and on the body. From this, he said, you can see we are less than 10% human. But something felt wrong about this. Okay, whoa, hold on. Wait, slow down. So there are 70 trillion bacterial microbes and only 7 trillion human cells on the human body. And listen to this idea that we are less than 10% human. So that's kind of a mind-blowing thought. Notice the next sentence, but something felt wrong about this statement. So that's an insight because I didn't expect him to say that, right? I'm less than 10% human. If I were to make a pie chart of my body's bacteria to human ratio, would the amount of human be just a sliver? Am I not entirely me? Okay, so already we see the smart, the smartness of this student, right? So here's a mind-blowing idea, and it's really specific. And then the student is actually questioning it, which is cool. And he's raised an even deeper question. Am I not entirely me? And in 250 words, he's probably not going to solve this question, but I like that he's raising it because it gives us something to puzzle over and to think about throughout the rest of the essay. It's going to keep us engaged. So that's one tip for this essay. After a rather boggling discussion with my father during the drive home, we concluded that the statement was illogical. By the same logic, I'm also 8% clothing, 1% watch, and 5% leftover Chinese takeout. Also, masses weren't considered, which would have, so there's like some humor in there, right? 5% leftover Chinese takeout. That's funny, you guys. That's my point. Also, masses weren't considered, which would have tipped the percentages in our favor. So smart. So, okay, this is the guy who knows science. Cool. What Dr. Finkel meant is that about 10% of all cells found in our body are human cells. So while most of the cells in us aren't human cells, we are still 100% us. So that kind of answers the question. But now, this is interesting, realizing we're completely human doesn't seem to mean so much. Well, what? The fact still remains that our very existence depends on microorganisms, insight, and will always be dependent creatures at the microscopic level, insight, despite how much we want to believe we're a superior species, insight. But maybe this isn't such a bad thing. Too much autonomy can sometimes lead to delusions of grandeur, insight, and believing that we're above seeking help from others, even when we're on the path. So it's leading to delusions of grandeur and believing we're above seeking help from others, even when we're on the path to failure. Discovering the role bacterial microbes play in our bodies helped me realize we shouldn't be eager to strive for complete autonomy. So here's another insight. So here's the problem with going too far with certain things. Instead, we should embrace our dependence on other species, both human and microbial. After all, scientifically, our lives depend on it. So he goes from this problem, this question, are we not all human, to saying, yes, we are, but then so what? What does that mean? Okay, well, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's not even a bad thing. In fact, our lives depend on it. So you can clearly see the progression. And if you've taken my personal statement course, you've seen me talk about how if you highlight the first sentences of each paragraph, you can see a small version, basically a short version of a whole essay. And you can kind of get that with this one. Pretty cool, right? All right. So here's how to write the Stanford intellectual essay. Ready? Okay. Check it out. All right. So step one, you're going to need to find a specific intellectual idea that you find really intriguing. Step two, describe it in succinct terms. And by the way, I'm going to give you a resource for doing that. Step two, you're going to want to describe it in succinct terms. So say what the thing is and say what you find, why you find it fascinating, if it's not already clear. And by the way, the one that he showed us was already pretty clear. Step three, answer so what in a compelling way. Step four, answer so what again. Step five, answer so what again. Keep answering so what until you run out of words. Now, I know I'm kind of joking there, but I'm kind of not joking. That's essentially how I recommend writing this essay. Come up with a specific intellectual idea that really lights you up and then say some smart stuff about it. Okay. And if you take off on a path that's not a smart path or isn't leading anywhere interesting, try a new path. Okay. So where can you find a collection of intellectual ideas? Wouldn't it be cool if I just gave you a big old treasure trove of ideas for your essay? And wouldn't it be cool if you could actually search it with just hitting Command F on your keyboard? Behold, every TED Talk ever on a massive and searchable spreadsheet. All right, so just type this in. So tiny URL, and then type in every TED Talk ever. And let me just share this with you. Putting it in the chat box. For those of you who see my screen, best resource, I think, for this for this essay. And they're all, they're listed by date. You've got, and here's why I love this, because check this out. If you just hit Command F, what's a topic that we're interested in? Let's say bacteria. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 44 mentions of bacteria. If that's your jam, you can just scroll through it and find what TED Talks. Here's an example of how bacteria talk from Bonnie Bassler. That's cool. I want to read this. Bonnie Bassler discovered bacteria talk to each other using a chemical language that lets them coordinate defense and mount attacks. What? So what? Where can you take that? That's what I want this essay to do. Keep going. What other bacteria stuff? Drug-resistant bacteria kills, even in top hospitals, but now tough infections like staph and anthrax might be in for surprise. Gary Mullis talks about how. Y'all, these are like 5 to 15 minutes long. Okay, so your assignment is to go and binge watch some TED Talks. So devote some of your time watching whatever you're watching, the OA, or you're watching the season, Breaking Bad for like the 3rd time in a row. Instead, I want you to spend an hour binge watching, and don't type in something general. Like, look, if you type in like, I'm interested in the environment, beware, because you're going to get, 217 mentions of the environment. I don't recommend getting general. I recommend getting super specific with this, okay? For whatever you're interested in, find, and watch some TED Talks. And so you find something that's like, OMG, that blows my mind. Then, like I said, answer this in an interesting way. Max asks, won't this result in all of Stanford's intellectual idea essays being based off TED Talk ideas? All, you flatter me, friend. This is assuming that every student is writing on these. Okay, so it's a couple of assumptions. Could this potentially make your idea not unique? If every student was taking the College Essay Guide course, then yes, that would maybe be true. But I'll tell you, I'll give you a tip, Max. Like of the students on this course, like 3 of you will do this. Okay, and also, the TED Talks are going to lead you to interesting ideas. You can quote the thinker without necessarily having to quote the TED Talk, because these thinkers didn't just do TED Talks, right? These are people who've written books. They've got research they've done at prominent universities. So you could reference them from such and such school. So you don't have to mention the TED Talk if you don't want to. Okay. So let me switch back to my student who used this method. See the course guide. Moving right along. That was 10 minutes. We did it. We're on track. Here's how to write the roommate essay. This one's required by Stanford, or has been for the past few years. Harvard doesn't require you to do a roommate essay, but it's an option in their, one of the students that I worked with last year who got into Harvard did end up writing a roommate essay. Against my judgment, I was like, no, don't. It's going to be too shallow. That's not what I literally said, but that's what I was thinking. And he got in anyway. So it showed his other side. His first essay was like serious and political. His second essay was like, hey, here's my personality, through this roommate essay. And it worked. But, and then Pepperdine has been doing it. We'll see if they keep it or not. Here's how to do it. Actually, here's what that prompt sounds like. Virtually all of insert schools, undergraduates live on campus. Write a note to your future roommate that reveals something about you that will help your roommate and us know you better. So here it goes. Everybody has peculiarities that most people don't know about. Now that's I'm kind of intrigued. Okay, what's weird about you? For example, I've got a habit of pinching earlobes. I also pour milk into my cereal only to drain it out after soaking the cereal for a bit. Is that strange? Well, there's more. Cool, I'm interested. All right, what are the weird things? I have minus 2.75 vision, but I hate wearing glasses because I feel confined and limited in my freedom to think. So you'll see me squint quite often, trying to overcome my astigmatism. It's not a death glare, I promise. I'm also extremely tactile. I like to run my fingers over laser printing because I'm amazed by my fingers' ability to detect subtle impressions. This is why I hate wearing socks on carpet. My feet lose sensitivity. So I hope you don't mind bare feet. I have a fetish for things that smell nice, so I like to bury myself under fresh laundry just wheeled back from Laundry Room 8, the one closest to our unit. I also alter, and by the way, she just drops there. So, but in that first paragraph, what do we get about her? She's extremely tactile, sensitivity. So a nice little value. She also mentions, that she lives in a unit. So she's dropped, I live in an apartment. I also alternate between 3 different shampoos just for the smell of it. Little joke there, a little irony, a little humor. So don't be surprised if I ask to share our toiletry items. I'm just looking for variety. Driving calms my nerves. Sometimes my family and I go on midnight highway cruises during which we discuss weighty issues, such as the reason people in our society can so adamantly advertise items like Snuggies. So I apologize if I keep you up late at night asking you to ponder the complex mysteries of our world. So again, she's funny. Also in my home, we've got an open door policy, literally. Every door, excluding those of an occupied bathroom, and the fridge is always open. So we get that she's open. I mean, I know that's obvious, but I'm just pointing out the values. I hope you and I will be comfortable enough with each other and with those around us that we feel no need to hide behind bedroom doors. Finally, I love shelves. They organize many different items under a unified structure. So cool. She's interested in organize, and I find value in this kind of integrated diversity. And you know what? This whole essay is integrated diversity. And I love them as a metaphor. I love this as a metaphor for this essay. There's a place for everything, including even the quirkiest of our traits. So she's like, I don't know. She's really accepting. She's really open-minded. That's why no one should feel left out, no matter how strange or odd they might think they are. So what are you like? Isn't that lovely? 5 tips. Here you go. Start with chaos. And if you did the 21 details exercise, which was part of the pre-work for the course, then you've got some chaos, which is to say some random, interesting stuff about you. We're looking for gems. Gems are like interesting, random facts. Now, where this came from was this game that Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who directed the film Amélie, which is the other film you should see. It's a really great film. It's rated R, so I'm just saying. I'm just like, it's rated R for adult content, but I don't know if I have to say that. Anyway, so there's this cool game that he used to play called I Love, I Hate. And it's kind of how he created the introductions for his characters. So when you meet his characters in this movie, and you can Google the opening to Amélie, it's not when she's eating the raspberries off her fingers. It's when he's introducing the mom and dad. I don't need to show it to you. I'll just tell you about it. So he basically says, mom does this, dad does that. You know what? Let me just show it to you really quick because it's not going to take me long. Let me just YouTube it. Movie time. I'm going to be showing you more and more videos tomorrow. So Amélie's father. You just Google Amélie's father. You will find this. Here we go. Okay. Here's Amélie's dad. And let me just switch over my screen. Here. Switch. Can you do this? Oh, whatever. Can I do this? I don't think I can do this. What I mean is because this is a thing that I don't think I can do this, but I'm going to share the link with you guys so you can watch it on your own. I'm not going to share it with you. I am going to share it with you right now, but don't watch it right now. But you'll just see this is what I'm talking about. But I don't think I can flash it up on the course. So I'm not going to do it just because. Totally check that out. What he does, he basically goes through the specific details. I mean, don't watch it right now. Just listen to me because I want to tell you about this essay. I love, I hate. So it's basically, I love this, I love this, I love that. So specifics. What you're doing is you're basically pinging for the reader potentially oh yeah, I love that too. Or I have something similar that I like. And you're building rapport, and there's a really great game that I sometimes use as a warm up just called I Love, where you just for a minute, just make a list of stuff that you love. It's really fun. I hate, what are pet peeves you've got? And what this can do, and you kind of saw this in the last essay, is it's oh yeah, I like detecting subtle impressions with my fingers too. Or I have something similar that's weird like that. So anyway, you start with the chaos, give me a bunch of random stuff about you, and then create some order. How do you do this? Group them into short paragraphs based on, what goes together. Now that can mean many different things. So it might be that, a couple of these are related to me being liking organization. A couple of these are related to things I've learned from my family. A couple of these are related to stuff that my friends laugh at. It could be anything, but just make sure that and you don't need to do it this way, but if you use this technique, make sure that everything that you group in that paragraph is somehow connected. But in order to do this, I think you should use the gems that are the most revealing. Now, what do I mean by most revealing? What makes one gem more revealing than another? I think it's the gems, in other words, the details that reveal deeper values. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? So examples from the essay that I just read. So the open door policy, no need to hide, obviously shows her open-mindedness, her desire to connect with people. The shelf metaphor, and notice that's because switch that or make it the opposite. We have a closed door policy. So the default is to privacy. right? That's different. It's a different person. The shelf metaphor, a place for everything, even our quirkiest traits, maybe shows that same value, but also shows how she's within the organization, the organized shelves, she is down for a little chaos, as we kind of see in her essay itself. Delete repetitive details. How do you know if they're repetitive? Well, once you do kind of like a value scan to be like, okay, what quality or value is each of these revealing? If it's repeating, cut one of the details. You can do something else with that one. So for example, if above she had included some details saying like, I also, try not to judge people. I try to be open-minded. We'd be like, yeah, we got that already from the open door policy. Or if she was like, I also like to keep my room neat. It's like, well, we got that from the shelves thing, organized. So you don't need to put those things in. This is kind of a joke. Don't use more than 2 consecutive exclamation points. For some reason, this essay really inspires people to use lots of exclamation points. So I'm just, I keep getting these essays that are like 7 exclamation points. And I'm like, anyway, so again, it's kind of a joke unless you're being like super ironic and you want to do like 40 exclamation points. But you'd have to, I don't know, there would need to be some kind of insight or something really funny that would make you do that. In the course guide, you'll see another one that has like 7 things you should know about me. So you'll see another example of this. What do I want? Do I want to say anything else more? I mean, so Max, to address your question about like worrying about blending in, many of the essays will sound like this because it's a style. So the other way to write this, guys, and I don't have any examples of this because the students that I have worked with have tended to write this style, will choose one particular thing and focus on that. And I find that when I've seen students do that, it doesn't turn out as interesting as this montage style that we're working with. Okay. Consider that the Stanford essays are like 3 parts, like Captain Planet, with your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. The intellectual essay is a chance for you to really show how smart you are and geek out on something, whatever you're inspired by. And it doesn't have to come from a TED Talk, but that's just a great place that I found to find these intellectual ideas. The roommate essay is going to show more your personality, your sense of humor, your fun, let your hair down, put on some jeans. And the what matters essay, and I think this is especially important for those of you who are using a topic for your main essay that's a little lighter, a little more fun, this can really show your deep core values. And I'll get to one in just a sec, or 2 in just a second. But I think it shows your depth. I'll just say that. So think of it as like one is brains, one is heart, and one's personality. Brendan asked a good question. So you analyze all the values and stuff like that in these example essays. Are the people reading your application doing that too? Not on a conscious level, Brendan. Like, I don't think any admissions readers are like going, let's do a value scan, but definitely on an unconscious level. And how do I know this? Like when you look at a bad essay and a good essay, in a good essay, you can name the values. And in a bad essay, you can't name many values. That's how I know. That's why this has become such a big part of my work. So take a look at these 2 what matters examples, and then I'm going to offer some tips. And Kylie just asked, is there anything we should definitely not include at the roommate essay? Yeah, Kylie, if you killed someone, do not include that. But I couldn't speak to generally. If you have something specific that you're curious about, Kylie, feel free to ask. Okay. So check out this what matters essay, because here's the third in the trifecta, the Stanford trifecta. Listen to this example essay, and then I'm going to analyze it. See if you can spot its structure based on what we talked about yesterday. As a child, I was a Monopoly champion. After all, I did as I was taught. Use every tactic possible to bankrupt my opponents into surrender. Okay, interesting. So it kind of starts like an interesting, like, whoa. Granted, Monopoly is a game whose ostensible purpose is to create and hold monopolies. But I've realized through my experiences in the Texas mathematical community that life is a bit more complex. Okay, interesting mystery. I'm like rubbing my hands together. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. So the first thing, that he was great at Monopoly and he would try to bankrupt his opponents because that was the point. But in life, as he's gotten older, we know we were kind of set up that this essay is going to have something to do with what he's learned about bankrupting his opponents. A significant issue for Texas math competitions is asymmetric access to study resources. Schools don't share study materials so that they can preserve their competitive edge. This behavior carries serious implications, including student discouragement. After another school swept regionals when I was in 6th grade, many of my peers seeing the shiny study booklets in the hands of the winning team, quit the activity. Asymmetric. So what's one thing that makes him an empathetic figure in the story is that he was on the team, or he was with the kids who were not getting access to the amazing materials, and it wasn't fair. But he doesn't say that. He doesn't complain about it. He just says, look, some of my friends quit because it wasn't fair. Asymmetrical access to resources turns the original goal of fostering interest in mathematics on its head by discouraging students, ultimately having toxic effects for the community. So here's the problem, and here's why this is a big deal. Here's the negative impact of this. Since 9th grade, I've worked to combat this problem by co-founding the San Antonio Math Club, a nonprofit organization that works to provide equal access to resources by holding free monthly meetings where students from all over the state can get together and discuss challenging problems. Cool. Don't get me wrong, I love to win. So this is like a nice moment of vulnerability. And it takes what was about to become an essay about, look at me, how I'm the hero. And it adds what I call a cross stream. Now, a cross stream is like, on the one hand, he's saying, look at me, like being such a good guy, trying to help provide more, like better access for all students to level the playing field. But then he's like, don't get me wrong, I love to win, which adds this kind of like a wrinkle to it, which adds complexity and depth because it's really human. And it adds like an interesting like layer, right? So how can you use this? If you feel like your essay is boring, add some kind of contradiction and then dig your way out, right? Don't get me wrong, I love to win, but I believe that some players can't begin with $8,000 while other players begin with $1,500. And through endeavors like the San Antonio Math Club, I strive to maintain the sustainability of the game so that everyone will play again without fear of bankruptcy. Notice the double meaning on the word bankruptcy. Because to me, equity matters. Equity matters. Okay, now this is what I love about that ending. That he waits until the end to say what the thing is that matters. And the value of that is that it keeps us in suspense until the end. Now, here's one thing that's important, because we're going to look at another essay that does the same thing. But the reason I think this ending is better is that the word equity probably wasn't in your head. So what does equity mean? You can look it up, but it basically means, equal access. The playing field is level, that things are fair. Okay, but anyway, what I love about this is that, and I mentioned this, I think, on an earlier session, but the key to a great ending is that it be surprising but inevitable. So how is this inevitable? Well, we kind of know that this is what he's talking about, but it's surprising because he uses the word equity, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's the word for it, Not the word that was in my head, but that's the word for it. And that's what gives it an element of surprise. Surprising but inevitable. The essay we're about to read, I want you to see if you feel like it's surprising or inevitable. Imagine it on a spectrum. And by the way, did you recognize the structure? The Elon Musk structure? What is it? Name the problem, right? Not equal access to math resources. Say why it was important. Because kids are quitting math. What did you do about it? I founded this club. Why were you crucial? He doesn't really say that here, and he doesn't really get into the impact. It's okay. The point is that these are all the elements of it. Look, if you don't get into all of them, it's not the end of the world. You can still write a great essay. Here's another one. Let's see how they compare. This is Adrian's from his application from session 1. 5 years ago, I took up a demolition job from a couple neighbors so I could help my mom pay bills around the house. So this is a demolition essay. The problem, helping mom pay bills. I did a good enough job the first time that my neighbors told me that if I wanted, I could continue working with them on other construction projects. It's been a demanding job, and I made numerous mistakes at first, like using the wrong tools for different tasks or the wrong size screw. On occasion, I was scolded for my mistakes, and I felt incompetent, as I wasn't able to complete tasks as fast as my coworkers. There were even days I considered quitting, but I stuck with it. So this is nice, that he's building the challenge. So the challenge was, how do I help mom? What I did about it was demolition. But it was hard. And he mentions in the paragraph, he raises the stakes. It wasn't easy. I even thought about quitting. In movies, this is called the dark night of the soul moment, where they're getting ready to give up. And I'll never play basketball again, or the relationship is over. But I stuck with it. Since then, I've built, repaired, and remodeled numerous homes for family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers. So this is the what I did section of the BBs. I've removed and replaced carpets, broken down walls as well as driveways, installed cabinets, lights, both wood and tile flooring, and painted room after room. So what? Working in construction has made me feel like a bigger part of society. Ooh, insight. Uncommon value, because I'm shaping the buildings and offices my community uses. Didn't expect him to say that, did you? And it takes the essay to a next level, because he could just be like, and there are some other things I've done, and I've really learned how, when you're doing drywall, like, not an insight, and it kind of repeats. Insight. I feel like I'm shaping the buildings and offices my community uses. Although I don't make the choices in design, my workmanship is reflected in every job I've done. Cool. Because of this, my most memorable projects are those I've taken on by myself. So autonomy, which, remember, in his main personal statement, was a core value. This is not me doing what had to be done. It's doing what I choose to do. And I'm just noticing this thread right now. It's a common thread in his essay, or in his application. But this is not what I will do for the rest of my life. Whoo! Well, bam! This is not what I will do for the rest of my life. Do you hear where this is going? What matters to me is supporting my family, but there are other ways I can help. Getting a degree is the next step. Congratulations, you're in Stanford. I'm not saying that got him into Stanford, but don't you root for him here? Don't you feel like, oh my gosh, yes, it is, and you should do that, right? So I just find this incredibly inspiring of an ending. Max asks, should the What Matters essay be completely different than the main personal statement? I don't know what completely different means, Max, because I think it should be different to show a different side to you. So yes, but notice there's a common value here of autonomy and choice. So I don't know if that's completely different. If your What Matters essay is just one paragraph, should you try to split it up into shorter paragraphs? I think so, Kylie. I think so, because I think if you're, basically looking at each of those paragraphs, I like to look at me. Or look at this. Look at the first sentence of each paragraph. 5 years ago, I took up a demolition job from a couple neighbors. Second paragraph. It's been a demanding job, and I made numerous mistakes at first, like X, Y, and Z. Since then, I've built, repaired, and remodeled numerous homes for all sorts of people. Working in construction has made me feel like a bigger part of society because I'm shaping the buildings and offices my community uses. But this is not what I'll do the rest of my life. What matters to me is supporting my family, and I'll just cheat and use the last sentence. Getting a degree is the next step. You see how that creates a nice short version of it? That's what I'd recommend, Kylie. Split your giant chunk of an essay into shorter paragraphs. It'll make it easier for us to skim because the reader's probably going to be skimming. Stanford readers have to read so much stuff. Make it really easy on them. This could be or a montage or a narrative, right? Because we've got some unusual, uncommon values, but we also are solving a problem. These are great essays from students that were accepted this past year to Stanford. What can we learn from them? 3 ways to increase the impact of your What Matters essay. Number 1, notice that both of these writers are illustrating what matters through the steps they took to solve a problem. For example, here was the problem. So I started a club. Here was the problem, needed to support mom, so I did construction work, demolition. Now, you don't have to do this, of course, but the value of doing this is that it can give a sort of like nice arc to the essay, a beginning, middle, and end. Here was the problem. Here's what I did about it. Here's how it turned out. And it makes it easier to overlap this essay. Some of the essay topics you'll see, and I'll talk about a couple today, are like about overcoming difficulties or what's a challenge that you've been through, right? So this will help you do that. Second, pick something specific that matters to you and probably say it explicitly. So one of the problems I see with this essay is students they won't even mention what the matters is. They're like, well, you kind of have to assume what it is. And the student will be like, well, it's something like this, but they don't even know. I say be bold, state it if it's not already obvious. Okay. And I say, and I mentioned this already, but maybe say what matters at the end, because I think it's going to keep us engaged and curious about, well, what is the thing that matters to you until the end? And bonus points if it's surprising but inevitable. Were you surprised by the ending of this last essay? Family matters to me? Not really, right? Not the end of the world. It's still a great essay, but because there's like some surprising stuff here at the end. But I wasn't really surprised by the end. Now, again, you don't have to do this. I'm just pointing out why I really like that essay above, because the ending is surprising but inevitable. And I think that's a great tip, guys, by the way, for your main essay as well. Is the ending surprising but inevitable? I know that's a lot to do, and it took both of these guys several drafts to do this, but it's a nice thing to aim for. Okay. The Create Your Own Class essay. How are we doing? We're good. We're right on time. All right, let's look at an example. Here's a prompt from Pomona. Pomona's critical inquiry course is required of all first-year students and designed to be highly interdisciplinary, notice that word, and engaging. So they want it to be interdisciplinary, combining different, studies, different areas of study. Recent class titles include Molecules of the Mind, The Economics of Sin, and Punk, Poets, Politics, and Provocation. Cool classes, right? Imagine you were hired to design and teach a critical inquiry course. Describe the title of the class, its contents, and why you chose it. Okay, so here's a student who's attending Pomona now. This is, I say I really enjoy. Here's the title of the course that he made up. Great American Leaders, a historical, sociological, and political perspective on how to get things done. Cool, I'm in. Course description. Throughout history, many American leaders have been good, but what has made the most famous ones great? In this course, we'll explore and apply the techniques of effective and highly regarded American leaders who have forever left their mark on our nation's society. From President Lyndon Johnson's use of the lean for physical intimidation to pass landmark legislation, to MLK Jr.'s use of the Old Testament to bring together Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish leaders during the Civil Rights Movement, to Eleanor Roosevelt's ability to command respect and influence at a time when women's voices were rarely heard, we will analyze the tactics that have led to lasting change. As we study the strategies pioneered by these great leaders, we will simultaneously work to find ways to apply them in the present day. Interesting, right? Okay, sample lectures. Here's the title of the sample lecture: Connections During the Civil Rights Movement, a sociological look at the unity of leaders, cultures, and religions in common cause. Required readings: A Letter from a Birmingham Jail, MLK Jr., I Speak to You as an American Jew, Dr. Joaquin Prince. Next lecture, 100 Days, FDR's spectacular entry into the office of the presidency and his leadership of a Congress of Action. Required readings: The Defining Moment, FDR's 100 Days and the Triumph of Hope. Seneca Falls, the leaders of the women's suffrage movement and their convention that changed women's rights forever. Anyway, I won't read all these, but here's the ending. At a time of ineffectiveness and gridlock, this is when this was especially true in our political climate, it's imperative that we study what makes a great leader and attempt to find applications of their work in the modern day for our country and our world. Doesn't that sound like a political speech? Cool, right? All right. So what does this essay do right, and what can you steal, or your student? If you're not a counselor, you're a student listening to this. Give your course a sexy title. What do I mean? Something that's attractive, something that's going to want to make us take the course. I suggest using a colon. You don't normally hear sexy and colon in back-to-back sentences, but I just did that. Why a sexy title? Or why use a colon? So that you can make the title super long and interdisciplinary, and so that you can make part of it kind of funny and part of it like serious and smart. Okay, you saw him do that. You'll see the other example in the course guide did that. And some of the examples that they give in the prompt. Ask smart questions. Smart questions in the course description are going to give us a sense that, first of all, what the content of the course, what you're going to be exploring, but also that that you're engaged with this in a deeper way. You don't have to answer the questions, but it'll get us excited about what the course is going to cover. Pitch the course. So don't make it boring, right? I want to hear the course that you actually would want to take. And this makes a little bit of thought. So both of these students in the examples that you're going to see had a moment where they were like, no, I'm super stoked on taking this course. And for the first student, the one I just read, it happened in our first session. And for the other student, it happened in like our fifth session where he's like, okay, this is going to be fun. And I'm like, there you go. If it's going to be fun for you, take the course that you would want to take. This is like the makers of the Pixar movies are like, they're constantly telling themselves, let's make the movie that we would want to make. And what would that look like? And not make the movie we would want to make the movie that we would want to see. So write the course that you would want to actually take. Imagine freshmen scanning through all these course descriptions. What's going to make yours jump out? And then I really like to do the required reading because it's so harkens back to those course descriptions, but it also offers a chance to, show the variety of interests and give us a sneak peek into the variety of things the course would cover without a whole lot of work on your part. Like you can go on Amazon and do that. Okay. Use sexy titles not just in the actual title, but in the course, the sample lectures, the ones that I showed you that, in the example. Again, think of the class as like, if you were to read the title of the class, it's like, okay, this week 6, we're dealing with, ooh, cool. That kind of sounds interesting. So you're taking a topic that might be really nichey, and you're relating it. This is the whole gist of this essay. You're taking something nichey, like I don't know, politics. Politics is not super nichey, but what would be the niche? Gosh, I'm trying to think of what the niche would be. It doesn't have to be a niche, actually. It could be something really academic. Here we go. So it could be something nichey or academic, and you're bringing it down for the people and making it something that anybody could relate to. So that even if you're talking about something political or historical, why would a music major be interested in this class? Well, because music majors have to get things done. Or the athlete. I don't want to take this, but the smart athlete needs to get things done and is maybe interested in history and politics. So like, okay, I got to get things done. So can you have an element that would really inspire anybody to be interested in this? Would my Aunt Claudia be interested in this? You don't know anything about her, but she's a smart lady and she's interested in a wide variety of things. Not a wide variety. So make sure you're relating it to the common person. All right, let's see. The quotation essay. Here we go. So here's a sample prompt from Princeton, and it says, using a favorite quotation from an essay or book you've read in the last 3 years as a starting point, tell us about an event or experience that helped you define one of your values. Oh, look, Princeton's asking about your values too, or changed how you approach the world. Please write the quotation, title, and author at the beginning of your essay. The good news is that this is wide open, y'all. So if you've got a school like this who's just asking you to like pick a quotation, and this is, one of 6 prompts that they're offering, you can do whatever you want. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So here's a sample essay that I really like. And note that, anything, this is going to work for, well, anyway, let me just, you can adapt this essay for others. You'll see in a second. It's wrong to chide a man for being fascinated by mysterious coincidences, but it's right to chide him for being blind to such coincidences in life. So listen to that again. It's wrong to chide a man for being fascinated by mysterious coincidences, but it's right to chide him for being blind to such coincidences in life. Here's the essay. Seoul, 1990. 2 resident doctors at Seoul National Hospital bump into each other during the night shift. Apologizing for his clumsiness, the man offers the woman coffee. A year later, the couple marries, and on April 26, 1993, I am born. Fast forward 10 years. My father runs into a high school friend who happens to own a travel agency in Europe. My father and I discuss the possibility of studying abroad. Not long after, I'm on a plane bound for Heathrow. Sitting here now as a Korean student in an American boarding school, I realize what Kundera said. That's the person whose quote I quoted at the start. I realize what Kundera said is no exaggeration. A fateful bump led to my creation. There's kind of a subtle double meaning there. Don't know if you caught that. And I told the student that I was like, that's, kind of sexual. And he's like, I know. I was like, okay. An unexpected reunion sent me abroad. Fortuities, chances, luck. Our lives are made up of these moments. Even this application to Tufts. So what? Okay, cool. So what? Even this application to Tufts is the consequences of innumerable coincidences. Undoubtedly, accidents beyond our control shape our lives. But do we really have no control over their outcome? Ooh, interesting question. I believe we do have control, or at least some. As a storyteller, insight, I didn't expect him to say that, did you? I'm always trying to make meaning out of random moments. It's coming together. And just as these moments organize themselves through the will of my fingers on the keyboard, I know I have the capacity to direct the way I perceive my own life. Explosion of values, autonomy, being a writer. Like, I get why he's a writer. The stories we tell shape our perspective, and our perspective in turn shapes our choices. So, okay, this is where the essay explodes with goodness. What will be the next chapter in my life story? What will the next chapter in my life story be? With my fingertips poised, the pages wait to be written, and I'll be the author. Nice, right? Okay, so this student struggled for the second half of this essay because he had this cool opening and this cool quote, but he didn't know what he wanted to say about it. And as I say to you guys on this course, keep asking yourself, so what, until you hit on something interesting. Okay. And who decides what's interesting? Yeah, you can get some feedback, but it's got to be something that feels like a real, interesting, fascinating thing. And in this case, finding that all of these random coincidences are relevant to him making meaning in his storytelling as a writer, because that's what he wanted to study. He was a journalist. Pretty cool. Cool. So anyway, he got to insight. Okay. What are some tips? If the prompt allows you to choose any quotation you like the one I just showed you, pretty much you can write about anything you want. So please go back into the overlapping game and figure out, make it easy on yourself. What other, whatever topic I'm interested in, or just ask yourself, okay, for this other topic that I'm writing on, could I write it and put a quotation at the start of it? Okay. So if you can, for Princeton, choose any quotation. Don't be a slave to the prompt. In other words, if you're writing your essay and it's taking off on this new and interesting direction, don't be well, I don't know how it's going to relate to the prompt. Don't worry about it. You can pick a new prompt, a prompt that's more surprising and inevitable. What sometimes happens is students write a prompt and then they write all about the prompt and it connects so obviously to the prompt that it's just boring, right? So it's too inevitable. So consider, after you've written your quotation essay, switching out your quotation essay for something that might add a little bit more surprise, a little more space, a little more dynamic tension. Here's a test. Take your prompt and put it at the end of the essay, and does it feel like a surprising but inevitable insight? Okay? The problem with putting the prompt at the start, and I know that sometimes they force you to do it, is that it can sometimes seem kind of cliche or cheesy. So consider, just tell your story, whatever the story is that you want to tell or need to tell for other schools, and then maybe choose a new prompt. If the quotation specific, you've got to write it on a particular set of 35 words, then what I would say do is go through and highlight the key words and then ask yourself, okay, could I double this with other prompts? For example, these are the ones from last year for Amherst. Rigorous, and you don't have to answer all these, you just pick one. Rigorous reasoning is crucial in mathematics, and insight, I put insight in bold, plays an important secondary role these days. In the natural sciences, I'd say the order of these two virtues is reversed. Rigor, I've highlighted that. Rigor is, of course, very important. So reasoning is important. But the most important value is insight. Insight into the workings of the world. We've been talking a lot about this in this course. Insight. It may be because there's another guarantor of correctness in the sciences, namely the empirical evidence from observation and experiments. So it would take us a little while to parse all that, but the key words here are rigor and insight. Could those connect to another prompt? Let's see. I don't know. Let's go through the others. Translation is the art of bridging cultures. It's about interpreting the essence of a text, transporting its rhythms, and becoming intimate with its meaning. Putting this in bold. Translation, however, doesn't just occur across languages. Okay, so hashtag translation. Mentally putting an idea into words is an act of translation. So is composing a symphony, doing business in the global market, understanding the roots of terrorism. No citizen, especially today, can exist in isolation that is untranslated. Ooh, okay, cool. There's a little typo there, but just cut the I. Destroy the ego. No, I'm kidding. So translation, what is that? And what does it mean to you? And I don't know, could that apply to something else? Now, granted, as you can probably tell, these are going to be harder to double. So chances are you may not be able to double these prompts. That if you really love one of these prompts, it's probably just going to work for this school. So, again, with all the work that I've been telling you to do to try and do it, sometimes it's not going to happen. Creating an environment that allows students to build lasting friendships, including those that cut across seemingly entrenched societal and political boundaries, requires, I put this in bold, candor about the inevitable tensions, as well as about the wonderful opportunities that, in bold, diversity and inclusiveness create. Okay, so what you need for this is a topic that has to do with diversity and potentially tensions across societal and political boundaries. So there are other essays that sometimes ask you to talk about a moment of difference. University of Colorado did it last year. So if that, maybe you could double it there. Difficult, here's the easiest one. Watch this. Difficulty need not foreshadow despair or defeat. So I put difficulty in bold. Rather, achievement can be all the more satisfying because of obstacles surmounted. Period. Okay. So if you were writing about difficulty or obstacles surmounted, you could write for this essay and then reuse it, right? So when possible, oh, this is another separate tip. When you can, I would say put that quotation at the end of the essay. Why? Because sometimes when we put it at the beginning, it can feel kind of cheesy. But sometimes when we put it at the end, it can feel like the mind exploding, mind expanding insight, like reframing that we were looking for. And if you want an example of that, look at the Broken Violins essay in the course guide. It's a beautiful example. You might be frustrated if you have to put a quotation at the start that you couldn't put it later, because if you imagine that quotation at the start, it kind of gives away the ending. So anyway, when that student found that quote, it just blew my mind. All right, here we go. Home stretch, friends. We got 10 minutes left, or maybe 11 minutes left. And we've got the U Chicago extended essay, the mother lode, the toughest of all. Here we go. Sometimes students ask me if they should do that optional U Chicago supplement that's like, hey, give us some favorite books, poems, authors, films, plays. And the answer is yes. If it's optional, do it. If it's optional, it's going to give you an opportunity to show yourself, do it. And I'll talk more about how to handle that in particular in session 5. Should I do something special for the U Chicago Why Us essay? Yes. You should brainstorm a list of 10 to 15 reasons that clearly connect between you and the school, and you should articulate those in a way that sounds like you're talking specifically about U Chicago and no other school in the world, like you love them so much, and then you should turn around and do it from every other school you're applying to. So this is a bait and switch, right? Yes, you should do something special for them, but you should treat them all special. So is there something that makes U Chicago different? Yes, and that's what you need to put in your essay, is what makes the school different and why you love that. What are they, the U Chicago readers, looking for? I think these 3 qualities. I think they're looking for intelligence, creativity, and insight. And you might be like, well, yeah, obviously. And actually, I'll add one of these 2, either big humor or big heart. So big humor is like, make us laugh, or big heart, like make us feel something. Now, you might be like, come on, Ethan, that's what every school is looking for. But notice that I left out core values and vulnerability, because I happen to feel that core values and vulnerability are really important, and like definitely for your main essay. And look, if you want to write and put core values and vulnerability into your Chicago essay, knock yourself out. But I happen to feel that those qualities are secondary to creativity and insight. Why do I say this? Because the students that I've seen write the standout amazing essays and the students who've gotten in, like those students who have gotten in and who've written awesome essays, in the past 10 years I've been doing this, wrote essays that possess these qualities. Okay, so let me just go back to those again. Intelligence, creativity, insight. You don't need to write these down, because I'm about to tell you from Chicago's perspective what they're looking for, and it's related to these things, but I'll get you even more specific. Okay. So what does a great U Chicago essay look like? Well, you read 4 of them for homework, but let me just give you a little bit of a, if you didn't read them, here's a sample essay. And this was written for that create your own question prompt. So the first thing I'm going to read here, the prompt was written by the student to set up his own essay. Okay. Dear Christian, the admissions staff at the University of Chicago would like to inform you that your application has been put on the line. We've got 1 spot left, and we can't decide between you and another equally qualified candidate. To resolve the matter, please choose one of the following: rock, paper, or scissors. You will be notified of our decision shortly. Awesome. Okay, first tip. If you're going to do this choose your own prompt, make it a prompt that feels like a U Chicago prompt. How do you know what that feels like? Google University of Chicago prompts, and you'll see a page that has all their past prompts. And they're amazing. Everything from like, where is Waldo, really, to find X. Imagine, y'all, writing an essay that's just find X, and that's all you're given. If that excites you, you should consider applying to the University of Chicago. If that does not excite you, you should consider not applying to the University of Chicago. Here's the student's answer. So he's given himself a really tough problem, but for him, this is an exciting problem. Here's what he writes. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the opening. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and paper beats rock. Wait, paper beats rock? Since when has a sheet of loose leaf paper ever defeated a solid block of granite? Do we assume the paper wraps around the rock, smothering the rock into submission? When exposed to paper, is rock somehow immobilized, unable to fulfill its primary function of smashing scissors? So he's funny too. What constitutes defeat between 2 inanimate objects? Now, we already got that he was funny in the irony in the prompt. And we get that he gets U of Chicago because he's written a U Chicago style prompt. Maybe it's all a metaphor for larger ideals. Perhaps paper is rooted in the symbolism of diplomacy, while rock suggests coercion. But does compromise necessarily trump brute force? And where do scissors lie in this chain of symbolism? I guess the reasoning behind this game has a lot to do with context. If we're to rationalize the logic behind this game, we've got to assume some kind of narrative, an instance in which paper might beat rock. Unfortunately, I can't argue for a convincing one. Okay, you see what he's doing? This is the debate skills. So one way, if you want to just show your debate skills, is to do this. And what has he done? He's taken an intellectual idea or an interesting problem or question. And he's answering so what in a series of ways that show his intelligence. What he's doing is he's like giving U Chicago a chance to witness him intellectually wrestle. That's what I think you want to do in this essay. You want to intellectually wrestle. Let's see how your brain works. It's almost like if you were, trying out for an NBA team. Well, they're not just going to sign you. They want to do a tryout. They want to do a workout. They want to see, how do you dribble? How do you handle the ball? How do you pass? Can you shoot? And under a little bit of pressure. What does your form look like? They want to kind of, see you wrestle, right? What is your style? This is your opportunity to show them how smart you are. Again, smart idea, and then answer so what. Okay, I'm going to fast forward through this because it's in your course guide. Whoops, that's way too far. I just dipped right into tomorrow. Sorry. We just jumped forward in time. Okay, so you might be wondering, what are the U of Chicago prompts? Now presenting the U Chicago prompts. You can Google these, but I just want to dissect these right quick. First essay, here are the options. You're supposed to pick one of these. The aim of argument or of discussion should not be victory, but progress. Sometimes people talk a lot about popular issues to assure victory in conversation or understanding and leave behind topics of less popularity, but great personal or intellectual importance. What do you think is important, but under-discussed? Now, there could be a room for humor there, right? It could be like underwear, or I think boxers versus briefs is like super important, right? So, but there's also opportunity, something of intellectual importance, to discuss an intellectual idea. You see where I'm headed with that? Option 2, due to a series of clerical errors, there's exactly one typo in every department of the University of Chicago, the name of every department. Oops, describe your new intended major. Why are you interested in what courses or areas of focus might you want to explore? Potential options include commuter science, not computer science, commuter science, bromance languages and literatures, fundamentals, issues and texts, ant history instead of art history. A full list of unmodified majors ready for your editor's eye is available here. So you basically, what do? You take a major or minor at University of Chicago, you change one letter, and you write about why you would want to take that major and the courses in that major. So you're creating your own course. I'm sorry, you're creating your own major. That was an intentional mistake. You see where I'm going with that? Option 3, earth, fire, wind, water, heart. Captain Planet supposes the world is made up of these 5 elements. We're familiar with the previously noted set and with actual elements like hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, but select and explain another small group of things, say under 5, that you believe compose our world. Whoa, good luck doubling that with another prompt. Essay option 4. The late New York Times photographer Bill Cunningham once said, fashion is the armor to survive the reality of everyday life. I don't think you could do away with it. It'd be like doing away with civilization. Tell us about your armor. Interesting. So, could this double? What is your armor that you use to survive everyday life? Could that be a challenge essay that doubles as something? Maybe. It would be really tough, I think, with this one. Essay option 5. Fans of the movie Sharknado say that they enjoy it because it's so bad, it's good. Certain automobile owners prefer classic cars because they have more character. And recently, vinyl record sales have skyrocketed because it's perceived that they have a warmer, fuller sound. Discuss something you love, not in spite of, but rather due to its quirks or imperfections. Good luck doubling this. In other words, good luck writing an essay for this. It's going to work for another school. I just don't think it would be really tough to do it. Essay option 6. In the spirit of adventurous inquiry, pose your own question or choose one of our past prompts. Yes! Here we go. Now we're talking. Be original, creative, thought-provoking. Draw on your best qualities as a writer, thinker, visionary, social critic, sage, citizen of the world, or future citizen of the University of Chicago. What are they looking for? They want you to be original. They want you to be creative, thought-provoking. Listen to it. They're calling you a visionary, a social critic, a sage, citizen of the world. That feels inspiring, right? Take a little risk and have fun. This is the prompt, right, y'all? Plus, it's going to double, right? So write the story you want to write and then write your prompt. It's going to make it awesome. If you're scared by the U Chicago prompts, you might second guess whether or not you want to apply here. If you think this is too intimidating, chances are the University of Chicago is going to ask you some questions you're going to be intimidated by. Is it the right school for you? I don't know. I'm trying to scare you off, just like the University of Chicago is trying to scare students off by these prompts. But if you read these and you're like, oh man, and you're just like, put me in, coach, then it could be the school for you. I think they're the craziest prompts. And I think it's kind of like a sorting process, right? If you're not feeling like, oh, I'm not up to it, then I don't know, maybe don't apply. Max says, reading these makes me want to add U Chicago to the list. If you do, here's my advice. So which prompt should you choose? And you knew I was going to say this. Look at the first 5 prompts and see if you can double them, right on the same topic for different ones. Which of these prompts double? Well, I've set the course, this course that you're taking up in a certain way so that you can potentially see some overlapping potential. That might make it feel like this whole thing is, geared towards making this a U Chicago course. It's not. I just noticed that, I was going to do U Chicago first today, but then I was like, let me do it last because here's why. That first prompt doubles beautifully with any intellectual idea prompt like the Stanford one or an important social issue. Prompt 2 could be the create your own course essay. Now, you might worry that the reader is going to be like, wait a minute. Let's say the reader at Pomona is like, hey, you're changing one letter. This is clearly you're writing this for the U Chicago. But honestly, I think if you write a great essay, they don't care, right? Imagine you're reading this and you read a really kick-ass essay and you're like, you know what? This is probably their U Chicago essay. So that means, what does that mean? That the student is also applying to the University of Chicago. Who cares? I don't know. Just because they did. Does it look lazy? Maybe a little bit. Maybe it looks efficient though and practical. Maybe they blame you for like trying to save some time in your busy senior year. Prompt 3 and 5, good luck doubling them. Maybe you can try. Prompt 4, what do you use to survive the reality of daily life? Maybe you could use this and double it with like the Harvard or the Princeton big supplemental essays, which are like pretty open-ended. Princeton is like pick a quote. But and if your main essay is like kind of light and like kind of fun, then yeah, this would be like, okay, now here's my heavy how I survive the reality of daily life essay. That sounds heavy to me. It might not have to be, but don't stress. Why? Because you got that choose your own prompt, choose your own adventure prompt, right? Anything you want. I think it's my favorite. Why? You probably know what I'm going to say. If you can't find something that doubles with the others, use this. And this is an example of like, I've already said what I was going to say. So this is not an insight for you guys. Don't do this in your essays. And part of the reason I did that is because I already told you what I was going to tell you. If you're worried that U Chicago is your number one choice and you're worried that this is going to come off as lazy, you're going to get caught, as it were, then hey, don't do this. Don't double your prompts. Write an amazing essay for one of those prompts, whichever one inspires you. And you can use some of the inspiration of these other essays. It's hard for me to tell you how to do this, guys. It's hard for, and I've never really told a student how to write this prompt. Like, there's not like a particular place you can go because the prompts are as varied as life itself. What I can say though is the way it should feel ultimately is creative and original and fun and inspiring. Now, if every essay should sell it, yeah, okay. But especially here. And again, I think it's your insight, how you're able to intellectually wrestle and show off your brain a little bit that will help you stand out. And your humor, I think. If you look at that, the Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road essay, she uses it and connects it to the analogy of Plato's allegory of the cave, which you might want to just Wikipedia that before you read that essay if you haven't read it yet. Okay, so she's connecting, again, something smart and something like philosophical with something fun, a joke, a modern joke. More examples, and do, if you haven't read those big heart essays, because the ones that I just mentioned are kind of funny, big humor essays, big funny, but these are big heart. So you don't have to be funny in your essay. You can reveal some core values. Read the essay that begins, the one that's about do your English accent, do your American accent. That's an amazing one. All right. Homework. Work on your drafts. Which ones? You pick. Why? Because after tomorrow, this is in session 6, we're going to be reviewing drafts. Session 5, tomorrow, we've got that 150-word extracurricular essay, which you might have to write. We've got the short answers, which are, for the highly selectives, Columbia, Brown, U Chicago, USC. Those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And we're going to I'm going to give you some tips on what to do and what to not do if you decide to do a video. Here's the Q&A. Follow me to this doc. Follow me. tinyurl.com. /CEG student 72717. I'm actually going to give us a little 2-minute break so I can turn on the AC because it's burning up in my house, and grab some more water. But for everybody else, tiny URL. They'll give you some time to type in some questions in the chat box. CEG student 727. I finally got the date right this time. Okay. Here we go. And I want to discuss the cool thing that happened after the course yesterday, that I found out about that I love. In fact, if someone wants to just fill the rest of the class in on what happened yesterday after class broke up, please just tell us about that. So does anybody want to tell us what happened? Because some people might be like, wait, what happened after class? I'm talking about the UC game that broke out. So does someone want to just fill us in? And if somebody could just paste the link to yesterday's doc really quick in the chat box, then people can join up on that and see what we're talking about. Type questions in the box now. I'll be back in 2 minutes. 2-minute bio break. Go. Oh, ooh, one more quick thing. If you've got a draft that you might like me to look at, email it to info@collegeessayguide.com. I just posted that in. It can be on anything, probably not U Chicago because you probably haven't written that yet, but it can be on any of these supplemental essays that we've covered so far. So if you've got some YSs, that's awesome. My brother's going to post these on the doc. And I call it a bio break, Max, because it's your biology. You're handling your biology. You're going pee. That's why. All right. 2-minute break actually starting now. Go. All right, we're back. So, boom. Katrina asks, oh wait, Sophia asks, something I think I missed. What is the word limit for the UChicago supplements? Interestingly, they don't list it on their website. And because the Common App is down this week, we won't be able to check until it comes back up. So when the Common App comes back up, type in UChicago and you'll probably see it there. It's around, usually it's long, it's around 650, around a page. Sometimes, I think if memory serves, they don't always tell you exactly how long. So if they don't, I'd say don't go over 650. That's probably about as long as you want to go. If you can do it in 500, even better. Katrina asks, on day 6, when you're going over essays, would you be willing to look over personal statement drafts as well? No, because there's so many essays that we'll need to look at, Katrina. So I would say, I go over personal statement drafts on the personal statement course. So, just because we'll have so many, I'll say this, if we run out of, the supplements, then I can, but I don't think we will. Okay. On my personal statement, says Max, I talk about my grandfather, and in that essay I mentioned his company, sort of a name drop, with the company being called Stanford Telecommunications and being based in Palo Alto. Do you think it's good to have the name in there, or just say business? I don't know. That's a great question. Max, do you have, let me see. I guess my question is, do you have the numbers? Are you legacy? Do you have other things that might likely, because it may not matter. If you don't have a perfect GPA and test scores, unless there's something that's you have a connection where it's important for you to know that, that's going to help you get in. But I don't know I don't know enough about that company and how that's connected to Stanford to know if that's going to make a difference. So I don't know what to say. Let me ask my group. I have a group of counselors, a little, what do I call it? A brain trust, and I will ask. So thanks for asking that. So I'm going to write an email to myself right now. Ask brain trust, Max's question. And I think I know what they're going to say, but we might get some insight. Max's question. Next, let's see what we got. Oh, let me. Oh, I haven't switched over to the doc yet, but Ayush asks, Stanford seems to accept more art-centered students rather than STEM. What are STEM students missing? Ayush, what is that based on? When you say Stanford seems to accept more art-centered students rather than STEM? Because the two examples of the essays that I gave you, one was a math guy and the other guy was a math guy. So I would be curious to know what your evidence for that is. Chloe says, can I change the order of the activities list and personal statements for different schools on the Common App? Interesting. I don't know, Chloe. I would say, and here, I want to not answer stuff about the Common App, the logistical stuff, because it might be different coming up this year. So, and for people watching the recorded version, even watching this a couple years from now, if you're watching this, after 2018, definitely check out, the Common App. Alex asks, I know that a ton of people apply to Stanford for computer science because of its location in Silicon Valley. So my essay, do you think it'd be advisable to take out the connection to that specific major and make it a more generalized conclusion to better differentiate myself from other apps? I don't know. It just depends on how important it is. If you feel like you're going to be only middle of the pack, for computer science, and that's going to kind of blend in, it's kind of that thing where it's is it a common thing? Yes. But can you do it with uncommon values and uncommon insights and stand out among the other computer science applicants? Then maybe you'd want to include it. It also depends on how big a part of your life it is. If it's not a huge part of your life, maybe not. But if it's your thing, you might want to work it in there. What are your thoughts on Bible verses as the quote? Natalie asks. I know you kind of covered religion yesterday, but do you think it would be okay to do if I only highlighted the values with insights? Yeah, Natalie, it's higher degree of difficulty because it's is this an essay that, is this student going to try to convert me? I think that's sometimes people's fear, is that this student is going to be offering things that are connected to the faith that I can't connect with, right? That's the fear with people who are, may not share that faith. So I think it's possible. But what I'll say, Natalie, I think it'll be more difficult to do than if you began with something that was more, from history or from, something academic, let's say. I was going to say intellectual, but then I was like, wait, that's stepping in something. I'm not saying the Bible is not or couldn't be considered intellectual. So Jaleel asks, I'm doing a video for a fly-in. What shouldn't I do? I will tell you on session 5. Jaleel, you're not listening to me. I told you I was going to do videos tomorrow. What kind of humor should be avoided? Some people think something's funny, but it could sound mean or offensive to others. It's hard to say that generally, Yen. It's like, what kind of humor is your sense of humor? What should you avoid? I don't know. I guess if you were going to piss somebody off, but I also believe in taking risks, right? And saying, and they asked for that. Like the University of Chicago says, take risks, go for it. So I don't think I could generally say what kind of humor should be avoided. I would say, don't be racist. Okay, so that's one. Don't be racist. Don't be classist, and don't be what else? Genderist. Um, you know, but those are obvious things. Okay. In my school, 20 people apply for computer science and 5 people get in for art nearly every year. I guess it's just anecdotal. I think so, Ayush. I don't think that Stanford is looking for like a particular thing. 20 people apply for computer science and 5 people get in for art nearly every year. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is. I think it's just probably particular to your school because it might be the opposite at another school. What about the Stanford 50-word questions? Those are the short answer questions. We're going to talk about those tomorrow. Okay, here's the link to the essay doc. Let's click the essay doc. Oh, this is, by the way, this is what I was just talking about. So this was on, that's the current one that we're going to be working on right now. So that's the one that we're working on right now. The one that we worked on yesterday, just so you guys know what happened, is that after the session, and if you'll just look at the session, I think Max posted it here. Let's see, where is it? Or Katrina did. So if you want to click Katrina's, and I'll repost it. This was what happened yesterday, actually playing the UC game. Okay. I think this, I don't know how this broke out, but this was yesterday's session. So you guys can do this. If you want to just hang out on the dock afterwards and like help each other brainstorm topics and stuff, that's so awesome. Meet up in the Facebook group. I know that just posting the Facebook link to the college essay forum for students. If you haven't joined there yet, you guys can meet each other, see each other's pictures, and I don't know if that matters to you. That's kind of a weird thing, right? Where you're like meeting these people, and then suddenly you're like, oh, that's what that person looks like. That's not how I imagined Max. I thought Max was shorter. But you can meet up there, and you can actually link up to like start, to give each other feedback. But here's what happened yesterday: is that after I posted what the game was and what the values were, then if you look into this, someone posted their activity was theater. And then here were some cliche connections for theater, but some uncommon connections. And here they are, right? So here are all these different potential things. And, the student was, in the way that I sense, I don't know, I wasn't here for this, but it's so cool. This is like shareware. That basically people were helping each other with brainstorming uncommon connections. If you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say uncommon connections, go back and watch session 3, because that's when students were talking about it. So here's the Facebook group. It's just been dropped into the link, and I'll put that up at the top of the doc. In fact, I'll put it up at the top of both docs. Here's the Facebook group. Whoops, VB Facebook group. Okay, and I'll put that at the top of the doc that we're working on today. Join if you haven't. Okay, let's get into some essays. Unless we have any more questions, we don't. Okay, cool. Switching the Prezi over. Now, I would encourage paragraphs just because it's going to allow you to split these into separate reasons. And also, when I look at this, I go, unless you're making some point, unless it's like a wash of information. Let me just see if we use paragraphs. Let's see. Not a ton of paragraphs. Use paragraphs, guys. It just makes it easier on the eyes, I think. Here's Sienna's NYU essay. I got in. Those are the only words I could develop when I saw my name printed on the black and white cast list of the fall musical. This came as a shock to me since not many freshmen got into these big production musicals. As the day continued, I felt the happiest I'd ever been and had a smile that I thought was going to break my face. So many thoughts raced my mind, not knowing what these rehearsals would entail. I've always loved theater. Okay, so this right here, keep this. This is up for grabs. What I mean is, I think that you've basically said all this, Sienna, in I've always loved theater. So you might consider cutting this. If you decide to do a hook, 1, make it super short. Because what's really most important for this essay is the information and how it's connected between you and the school. Now, I get it. NYU is a theater, a great place for theater, and this is showing your passion for theater, but there are much more efficient ways to do this. So make it super short. 2, make it compelling. In other words, make us wonder something. Raise a question, a mystery, problem, etc. Something for us to wonder about. Always love theater. I'm going to split this because I think this is where the essay starts so far. How such a simple song or dance can express such intense emotion. Okay. Strive for uncommon insights. So this insight can delete anything that could be in someone else's essay. Right? So could this, a simple song or dance can express intense emotion? Probably going to be in someone else's essay, especially someone writing about theater. And keep in mind, NYU is going to get a ton of theater essays, right? As a child, I always felt out of place, whether that be a school or playing in sports. Okay, I spent most of my childhood jumping from sport to sport, desperately trying to fit in. It wasn't until I found musical theater that I found my home. Okay, here we go. Now the essay can start here. You can cut all this and just say, as a child, I always felt out of place, but in musical theater, I found my home. Boom, there's your opening. I spent every day in dance classes, vocal lessons. As I entered this new life, I entered into the realm of college. I heard about NYU specifically from the Tisch. Okay, problem is, and I don't know if you've read the course guide, but we got to get to the reasons. We got to get to 10 to 15 reasons, right? And I really think you can do it. As I entered this new life, I entered the realm of college. Okay, you can cut this. Spent practically every day in dance classes. So this will be common. Could you show this in a unique way? And again, this goes back to that exercise. Imagine what the cliche, theater essay will sound like. Then, agree, or promise yourself not to sound like it, right? Not to include the common values. Or in this case, common language. And what I'm talking about is what I talked about on the last. And you might have written this before the course, so I know I'm being super harsh and like tearing this up, Sienna, but it's going to make it better, I promise. And I'm rooting for you. I want you to get NYU if you love it this much. I heard about NYU, and you also should consider Northwestern because it's a great theater school. I heard about NYU, specifically Tisch, from a friend of mine. We don't care, who couldn't say enough good things about it. When the time came, I was finally able to tour the school of my dreams. Right away. And don't tell us the school of your dreams yet. So I would say save the visit for the end. Now, we haven't really gotten at anything. Right now we are, warning, we're 217 words into a 400-word essay, and we haven't gotten any specific reasons that make you and the school a perfect match. Besides, I love theater. If you say I love theater, we get it. Everything that you've implied, we get it. NYU is a theater school, right? So I'm just going to say, warning, 217 words in and nothing specific about NYU that connects you. Besides, #theater. Right away, I fell in love with all aspects of the school and the Tisch program. I know that this program will be able to immerse myself in many opportunities, general, right? The study abroad program, general. Every school's got it. Hundreds of internships, general. So cut all the general stuff that other schools will have. Why? What is it about Tisch? Now, so I have a sense that you probably did some research before visiting. So I would be interested, Sienna, in potentially, so restructuring. 1, I Heart Theater, or Theater Saved Me, right? That's what your opening is. Theater saved me. After I heard about NYU, I did some research. What'd you learn? What made this school so special in your eyes? Because it became your dream school, even before you got there. Why? What happened? Nothing, and super specific. I'm not going to tell you what the specific things are because I would be writing the essay for you, but there are specific classes, specific teachers, specific things that you can find that they have at Tisch and nowhere else. You know? And again, I'm like biting my lip because I want to like name some of them, but I want you to find them. I will be able to learn more about the world of theater than ever before and bring my experience to India and other countries where Broadway isn't accessible. You know, I say cut this because, so what am I going to do? It just seems general. Let's see. Tisch will give me the chance to work with experienced professionals able to train students for jobs in the real world. You know, watch. Northwestern, Michigan, USC. You know, if it seems really obvious that it could relate to other schools, cut it. This program provides an equal amount of guidance and independence for students that are beneficial. Cut it. It sounds like another school, right? The emphasis Tisch puts on humanities and science, you know, the emphasis that Northwestern / Michigan / USC puts on humanities and science is truly intellectually inspiring. One of the reasons why NYU is not like many schools. I don't know. Humanities and science, like any school that's going to offer you a broad range of classes that isn't like requiring you to take certain ones, and even some of those that are requiring you to take certain ones is going to sound like it. So the possibilities are endless at, you know, and I know that with a strong program like Tisch, my craft won't just something I do for fun. It will be a part of me. Okay. This is, I would say start over, Sienna. And I apologize for just like going super blasting on this, but I'm trying to talk to everybody who might write a general essay. So let me say this. First of all, this is better than like 40% of the essays, Sienna, out there. So this is not like a bad essay. This is just not going to help you stand out among all of the other students who are applying for theater. Okay. So what I want you to do is give me, you know, once you visited, so you don't have to do the end. Once you visited, you saw X and loved this particular thing. Then you spoke to Y and realized, you know, or learned about this other particular thing. Super duper specific. What is it about the program? Why do you want to study there at Tisch and not at, you know, any of these other schools I mentioned that have programs, theater programs, great theater programs? What makes Tisch specific, special, and how does it relate back to you? Okay. And then, and connect it back to you, right? You'll see this in the examples that in the guide, and connect it back to you. And then repeat. Next essay. That's my advice. So, you know, you can do this. It's just a matter of finding the specifics. Why USC? As someone who's well-traveled, I understand the value of having one of the strongest international student representations. These students will further improve my global perspective and assist me in choosing where to travel abroad. I hope to be a Renaissance scholar to ensure a well-rounded education and take advantage of research as an undergraduate. Tell me, you guys, and I'm going to ask everybody, and Claire, you too, is this going to blend in or stand out? So Renaissance scholar is different. Cool, specific reason. To ensure a well-rounded education and take advantage of research as an undergraduate. Will this stand out or blend in? Does this tell me more about you? Or could this sound like most any other student? That's a leading question, I know. Viterbi School of Engineering has an extensive number of engineering specialties, which will offer me the best fit. They know this. Got it. The small number of students enrolled in this college allows, this is like, did you guys read the YS guide? I would encourage you not to mention, oh, I see what you're saying. The number of engineering, so the small number of students allows for more in-depth learning environment. And I hope to join the Society of Women Engineers. Okay, this is a specific reason. Keep only this and say why. Renaissance scholar, great, keep that. What? Although I might not earn another Olympic medal for USC. Oh, got it. I thought, okay, Viterbi Ball will satisfy my love for sports and create an environment to meet fellow engineers. Got it. I thought you were an Olympic winner, and I was like, what? The close-knit alumni network will offer any more connections. You know, this is gonna sound pretty general. Okay, this is okay. Here's what I'd say. Viterbi Ball will satisfy my love for sports. Okay, I think you can keep this. Keep the stuff in bold and cut the rest. Get specific with the stuff in bold, and I think you can cut all the rest. Kylie's Stanford essay. In lower school science, you're given a lab to do. The procedure, materials, example hypotheses, and everything you could possibly need to conduct this lab are laid out for students on a simple, colorful papers. This is my understanding of a science lab until teachers began to loosen the reins in 9th grade. However, it wasn't until 11th that I felt the truly independent laboratory experience. So you're reflecting on an experience important to your intellectual development. I get it. And you're talking about an independent laboratory experience. Okay. I chose to research chemistry with a bio focus for my IB extended essay. Okay. My initial idea was fleeting. Its infeasibility was quickly realized while drafting a materials list. This original idea was to mimic the digestive system while analyzing the survival of organic compounds throughout the various pHs of the alimentary canal. What I find this is like, this is a narrative with a not too compelling, problem or challenge or question. So this is an example. I was talking about these yesterday, Kylie, where it's like, if you don't have a compelling reason for the narrative structure, you might try a montage, because like essentially, if the insight is like, this was a cool lab experience, and I was independent, like I don't know if it's setting up for something that's going to be like, it's really going to pique our interest here at the start. Okay, so there's some good science stuff in here. I then wanted to investigate how these compounds' molecular structures influence their survival, as well as their physical and chemical characteristics. Upon realization of the overall cost of the digestive tract, okay, so take inspiration from the bacteria essay. What does this have to do with us? I'm going to say with me, reader. Just to limit my investigation solely to the stomach, this research would focus on this and this. This meticulous process was undergone before I even stepped foot, and I experienced numerous challenges. A lab and a write-up were seemingly routine undertakings, however, they required me to be painstakingly punctilious and self-aware. I developed more critical and analytic thinking skills, common values, right? So we got that than I previously thought possible. We already saw that from what you showed earlier. And I furthered my efforts to grow as a STEM-focused researcher. I think this is going to blend in, Kylie. This is, first of all, it's really cool, but I think it's going to blend in because there's nothing in this that really pops yet. And I think the problem is you're focused on the entire experience, when I would say, if you can, notice the essays that I showed, focus on a particular idea. I'd recommend trying a new approach that will focus on a particular idea. Now, the problem of doing this is that it's not going to be as easy to double and triple it. Like that bacteria essay could never work for another school, or it'd be really hard. Okay, but it makes for an amazing intellectual vitality essay, which I think you need in order to stand out. Do you have to have it? Not 100%, but I think it really helps. So I would focus on a particular idea. All right. Okay, cool. Someone gave it a shot. Shabam gave it a shot. We'll make this the last essay. Here we go. The fashion is the armor. To deal with civilization, what is your armor? So how do you deal with civilization? Cool, here we go. A bowl. My armor was a bowl. A bowl that allowed racially hurtful comments to bounce off my head without any disastrous damage. A bowl that had always given people a reason to make a joke and cheer me up. My bowl had been with me from my first haircut. Nice, humor, you got it. Awesome, okay. So my hair, as many pointed out, was in the shape of a bowl. This stereotypical bowl cut sat atop my head since I had enough hair. I'd once gone to a different shop to get my hair cut, and to my horror, the man almost put gel in my bowl. For the past 16 years, I'd gone to one place to get my hair cut, and the seam never even asked what I wanted. She knew what was to be done with my hair. Oh, cool. Okay. Of course, she didn't use a real bowl to shape my hair. My hair was just thick, and the way she cut it always ended up looking like a bowl. But throughout my life, my hair had become my identity and my armor. Okay. So I was a little confused about this, but consider, clarify. That's my short note that I'm going to give to you because I'm only going to spend like 5 minutes on this. But I'm laughing. So you got that feedback, Shabam. So many times I had heard people identify me as that Indian kid with the bowl cut. So now it's my identity and my armor. Okay, so this is the interesting, compelling question. How is this his identity and his armor? So we wonder, how? So for the essay that we read above, Kylie, what we need is something to make us wonder, So many times I'd heard people identify me as that Indian kid with the bowl cut. Even though some might see this as a form of stereotyping, I never did. For me, it was something that made me unique. And along with my unusual name and never-ending smile, something for people to remember me by. So I think there's potential to up-level your insight here. It was something that made me unique. I don't know if this, could you insight 2.0? Like, is there another insight here? In all honesty, I wondered why a bowl cut was a stereotype. I'd barely seen any other Indians with my haircut, both in America and India. Okay. I'd always been the butt of jokes. Even though many are often hurt or offended when jokes are directed at them, I never felt that way. My bowl cut gave people something to laugh about. But, okay. But is this an insight? Yeah. I would always give reactions to keep the jokes coming, but never would I tell people to stop. Seeing my friends smile made my day. My bowl cut protected me from any harm the jokes could cause me. Did it? I don't know that it did. Did it? How did the bowl cut protect you? I think your perspective kept you. The bowl actually was bringing you the jokes. So that was like the magnet for the jokes. I don't get yet, how is it armor? Connection is unclear, I think. And your essay might depend on this connection. So before you do anything else, I think you need to clarify this connection before you get into any other thing that I might say. So I think you have to figure this out. Know if this is a topic that will work. I could stop there because anything that I would say relevant to the rest of this depends on you being able to make the connection. How is the bowl your armor? And that's why I think maybe I was a little confused with the opening. A bowl that allowed racially hurtful comments to bounce off my head without any disastrous damage. I get the double meaning, but the logic is flawed, I think, here. And I think that they're going to see through that. Unless I'm missing something, I think the logic is flawed. And you've got, if you don't catch them here in the opening, I think it's okay. There are always those who will say things that are mean to cheer people up, but rather do the opposite. When hurt, racially insensitive comments were made, racially sensitive comments. I think racially insensitive, right? It was my armor. I was ready to step in and take the brunt of the force. A side comment about my haircut. In this way, my hair had saved plenty of sad days for those who knew me. Often I wondered what it would be like to have a different haircut. A haircut. Yeah. So I'm going to pause here and say that I think. Let me see if the connection is made. A haircut might seem like something superficial. It was part of who I was. That's repeated without really giving us a sense of that, of why, like how. I don't think I have a sense yet. How? Why? Don't answer this. Don't worry about this question until you've answered the question above. Till the question above has been answered. Because if you can't answer that question, I think you need a new topic. I wondered if I would have different friends, a different haircut, maybe have become more athletic instead of sticking to my books. I doubt my hair would make a difference. Okay. My bowl made it through it all with me. It was the one thing that had stayed consistent throughout my life. So if this is true, we need to hear about all the different inconsistencies. Really? Tell us about that. Again, C note above, but not if you can't ultimately make the bowl and armor connection. Bowl to armor connection. That's what's lacking, I think. When I changed schools, I changed this. My hair never changed. It was the armor that showed me. So it feels like it's riffing a little bit. No matter how many people told me I should try a new haircut, no matter what new difficulties I'll face in my life, I know my haircut will never change. Really? Is this true? My bowl cut is the set of armor I grew up with, but a set of armor I can never grow out of. Really? Aren't you all about evolving and growing? Is this true? Okay. So it's clever. I just don't know if it works because we don't have the core connection that you need. I don't get why the bowl is the armor. Maybe you can clarify it for me, but I don't get it yet. Okay? So. Those are my thoughts, Shabam. Good luck. All right. Friends, we're over time, and I have a meeting in 5 minutes, but that's not why I'm ending. I'm ending because we're over time. And hang on one second. If you want to come back onto this Google Doc, the one that's the Q&A, and you guys want to brief and brainstorm, and you guys want to, actually, how could we do that? I think you need to create your own doc. So someone create a Google Doc, post it at the bottom, because I don't want people to be able to edit this one. Post it on the bottom and go crazy. Do whatever you want. Give each other feedback on your essays. Do whatever you like. And then I'd love to see where you end up. Send it to me. Somebody email it to me at the end of the night, and I'd love to just see. I loved looking last night. I was with my daughter at In-N-Out, and my brother said, "Look what they did." And I looked at the riffs that you guys did, and I was like, "That's so awesome." So feel free to help connect with each other. And yeah, tomorrow we're looking at short answers. We're looking at the short extracurricular. We're looking at videos. So I'll see you then.